and welcome to the Heat Check Podcast, Miami Herald's Miami Heat Podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line by Anthony Chang, our Heat beat writer here at the Herald. Anthony, what's going on?
Here at Casilla Center after Game 3. Was not a great night for the Heat, but I did witness history.
You
by
did,
the Nuggets.
yeah. First, a couple things of history, right? 2 30-point triple-doubles.
Yeah.
And Jokic, the first 30-20-10 game in NBA Finals history. There have only been 5 of those in playoff history. Jokic has 3 of them and 2 in these playoffs. And I think that's a good place to start it. The story of the night, I think, for the Heat, we'll give some more trenchant analysis of what I'm about to say, but Nikola Jokic is by far the best player in this series. Right now, at least, Jimmy, we know, can get on a heater and for a 4 or 5 game stretch be as good as anyone in the league. But right now, Jokic's bad game, big quotes in the series, he had 41 points.
Yeah, just 41 points. On like 20-something shots, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Heat, they had a good game plan on him in Game 2, I would say, right? Making him a passer. I know Spo didn't want to talk about that, but that was clear. That they were straight up said that before the series, right? Like, I know Spo kind of was like, you can't do that with Jokic, but before the series, I think Bam said it.
Bam
right?
mentioned it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to cut off the passing lanes. They did that well in Game 2. Jokic comes back in Game 3 and has one of the best individual performances in finals history. And, that game was fun for a really long time. At halftime, the Nuggets had a little spurt to go up 5 at the half, but it was really back and forth. The Heat felt like they were right in it, even with most of their role players not doing anything. We'll obviously get to that later. But the third quarter, the Nuggets blow them away. And it felt like anytime the Heat, kind of like Game 1, sort of like anytime they kind of put together a little push, Jokic made a play or Murray hit a huge shot. And, Murray, we'll talk about him, I'm sure, is having a fantastic finals. And there's no prayer that he could win finals MVP for this team if they win, because Jokic is the best player in the world right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much kind of what this game came
it's
down
a story.
to.
I mean, it's a story of what if the Nuggets going to win the series, it will be the story of the series nationally. It'll be Jokic has arrived, and not that he wasn't here before, but he is stamped as one of the greats.
The Heat. I mean, the Nuggets' 2 best players were much better than the Heat's 2 best players.
Yes,
and that was pretty much the difference.
And the Heat's 2 best players were pretty good too, not bad.
I mean, Bam was 7 of 21 from the field. They both missed a bunch of shots.
Yes, they missed a lot of shots, but 28
but
points for Jimmy.
28 and 22. Yeah.
22 and 17 for Bam.
They weren't bad.
They beat the Celtics with that game, with those games, probably.
They were just okay. They were basically, above average for their
B performances for them,
but
basically.
Jokic and Murray were, again, first teammates in finals history to both record a triple-double. I think the second time it's ever happened in playoff history. It was just an incredible performance by those 2. And I know after the game, part of the talking point was yes, Jokic and Murray were great, and that's one of the reasons we lost. But and Eric Spoelstra knows more basketball than I could ever know in 10 lifetimes. But he kind of emphasized the point that the Heat lost a lot of 50-50 balls and loose balls and rebound. And
the rebounding margin was the other big story tonight, I would say.
But I just think it came down to Jokic and Murray just being amazing. You look at the rebounding, yes, they were rebounded 58-33, which is a huge margin.
Yeah.
The Heat missed 19 more shots in Denver.
Right.
I mean, that has a lot.
That's going to be 14. That's 14 rebounds, 14 plus, automatically. The other
just automatic. And yes, they finished with 3 more offensive rebounds. That's kind of what I look at more, because offensive rebounds is the extra opportunities. They finished with 3 more offensive rebounds. So yes, Denver had a better rebounding game than the Heat, but it wasn't this gigantic margin when you really look at just all the missed shots that he had. And I think that's what I would point to for this loss. Obviously, Jokic and Murray, but the Heat's offense, shooting 37% from the field.
Yeah.
They shot terrible around the rim. I think they shot 30-something percent.
35%, I think was the number I saw. Yeah.
Bam and Jimmy were
and worse from 3, 31% from 3. It was they had no, the Heat can win one of 2 ways, right? One is Jimmy getting downhill, making shots at the rim, and also shooting free throws. He only had 6 tonight, right?
Yeah.
or going crazy from three. Those have been the two paths for the Heat to win. And when both are going, they can blow teams out. When one is going, they can beat pretty much anyone. And tonight, neither was going, right? Those two stars, I said like they weren't. I know they didn't shoot it super well, but I say they weren't the problem because they were the only two guys with more than 10 points for the Heat, right? It was
it's true. Caleb Martin was the third leading scorer with 10 points.
With 10 points, like what else? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think the Nuggets also made an adjustment, like not overhelping as much with Bam and Jimmy.
Yes, definitely.
Kind of like trying to just shut off the water on the Heat's role guys, which they did tonight.
Yeah.
So that was a good adjustment by them. But yeah, the rim numbers were very ugly for the Heat. 8 of 22, 36% at the rim. Bam and Jimmy, Bam was 3 of 9 at the rim. Jimmy was 2 of 7 at the rim. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, Denver does a really good job of kind of protecting the restricted area with Jokic's side.
They're
just
big.
Kind of
like I know Jokic gets like he defensive whatever. He's big, and Gordon is huge. Like legit. Like he'd be a great defensive anchor for teams. Yeah.
And even like Michael Porter Jr. I know he's playing God in the finals, but
he's not around the rim a lot. But when he is, he's 6'10".
Yeah, he can contest a lot of those like mid-range shots from behind, and he's had a few blocks even in that situation where he'll like come from behind and block a shot like the Gabe Vincent takes in mid-range. So yeah, they're a big team. So I mean, just not a lot went right for the Heat, and the 3-point shooting you pointed out, 11 of 35. I mean, that's been such a big reason for the Heat's success in the playoffs.
Right.
They've been the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA during the playoffs. So it's
the joke we've had all year long. It's like what other analysis is there for the Heat other than like when they shoot 42% from three, they're gonna probably win, and when they shoot 33%, they got no margin for error against a team like this. A number for you there to go with that. The Heat has shot 41.2% on threes in its wins, and 34.8% from threes in its losses during the playoffs. So like usually when the Heat shoot well from three, they win. Like you said, when the Heat shoot bad from three, they don't win. And again, it's really simplistic, but that's just the reality of kind of how it's worked. Yeah, and the Nuggets are the best team in the league, right? So there's no margin for error. Like they could, the Celtics, like they shot really well from three in that series, but game 6, they easily could have won in that series without shooting particularly well. Like they probably should have won that game. So like, the Nuggets they're the best, the Bucks were the best team in the league record wise in the regular season. And, who knows how different that series would have been if Giannis hadn't gotten hurt, but the Nuggets they're just the best team the Heat have faced, obviously, I think. Jokic is much better. Giannis was obviously compromised in that series, but Jokic has massively outplayed him, and they're much better coached than that Bucks team was. That Michael Malone is like, I think kind of asserting himself as one of the premier coaches in the league in this too. Like he's been really impressive. Like, I still marvel at like what Spo does. Like the fact there was a sequence in the first half where they go zone for a couple of possessions. I think the Heat went on a little run
too. Like it's crazy.
The Heat went on a little run. The Nuggets called a timeout, and then out of the timeout, Spo puts on the full court press. Like he's just like a mad genius. But he's got less to work with than Malone, but Malone's good too. Like you said, that adjustment was huge for the Nuggets tonight. We'll see if it holds, but. And the Heat were missing some open shots, but like
there were fewer than though. They got a ton of open shots in the first 2 games.
Yes, exactly. And the Celtics, like they kind of just kept daring those guys. Like we're gonna bet on Caleb Martin. I mean, Caleb Martin was hitting tough shots in that series, but like we're gonna bet on these guys. They're gonna miss eventually. And the fact of the matter is these guys are good, right? Gabe Vincent is going to get paid this offseason. Caleb Martin is the biggest bargain in the NBA maybe now.
Max Strus is going to get paid this offseason.
Max Strus is going to get paid this offseason. Like those guys are like small name guys right now, although not obviously anymore because of this run, but like those guys are all good players and the Nuggets are treating them as such. And they're betting. They've kind of taken the inverse bet, right? That this Heat team and we talked about it on the show because it felt like it through a lot of the year. Just the Heat felt like a team that had 2 really solid stars, one of the better 1-2s in the league. And we wondered about the depth. And that was kind of like the common sense thing was like slow down Jimmy, and get Bam, like limit him a little bit offensively. He's harder to limit because so much of what he does is defensive, but slow down Jimmy and you can slow down this offense.
Yeah.
Has not been the story of the Heat for the last couple of weeks, really. And the Nuggets are going against that conventional wisdom, or they did at least tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, in Game 2, the game that he has won so far in the series, the Heat shot 48% from three, and they won by 3 points.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, the Heat have to play better overall. They have to shoot better at the rim, but it's going to take, they're going to have to hit a bunch of threes.
Yeah, 48. Probably don't need that, but you need 40.
You need like around 40% probably.
Yeah.
To really, the Nuggets could play bad, but the Nuggets play up to like their standards. The Heat haven't had much success, even in the win against Denver's offense. Like Denver's offense, even in that win,
really
they
good.
Still, their offense already, I think in that game would have ranked like second in the regular season among teams. Like it was because the Heat just made everything pretty much in that game. It was their offense that won them that game. So, at this point, it seems through 3 games, I don't really see the Heat having an answer for Jokic and Murray, right? Like it just seems like Jokic is kind of unstoppable right now. No team really has had an answer for those guys. The Heat are just going to have to play better offensively. Nuggets defense isn't as good as their offense. The Heat have to hit more shots. That's what it's going to come down to. But 2 more discouraging things for the Heat. The Nuggets won tonight while shooting 5 of 18 on threes, which is just insane in today's
game. I was like stunned when I looked at the box score after 5
of 18. Now, not the fact, not only how many teams won this season. Took 18.
I know.
Yeah.
I wonder how many teams won this season while only hitting 5 threes.
Yeah, and they did that because they scored 60 paint points and outscored the Heat 60-34 in the paint. Like they just killed the Heat inside. I think Eric Spoelstra used the word pummeled. And the Heat also lost while committing 4 turnovers.
Turnovers, great. I don't know which one of those stats you just read off is crazier, but both of them are pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, Nuggets committed 10 more turnovers than the Heat and won by 15 points. I think who I want to credit the right person. A reporter from The Athletic tweeted that Miami had 4 turnovers in Game 3, tied for the second fewest turnovers ever in an NBA Finals game, and lost by 15. That's discouraging.
Yeah, that's tough.
So again, the margin for error is very, very small.
Yeah. They played like we said, they got to play better offensively, but some of those numbers are pretty good for the offense. So that's tough. Should we pivot to just like what needs to, I don't know if like say for the Heat to get back into the series is the right way to phrase it because they're down 2-1.
Yeah.
They're
still in at this point, right?
I think we would have been stunned if Miami came out of these 2 home games up 3-1, right? Given what we've seen from the Nuggets, what we saw in the first 2 games. I think it's very possible that he could come back and win Game 4 on Tuesday, and we're 2-2 going back to Denver, and I think both of us picked Nuggets in 6, right? Like that's still kind of the way it feels like it's probably trending, but one of the things we've talked a lot for years at this point on this show is the breakdown of like, do you go offense or defense? Talking about how difficult it is going to be for them to slow down this offense. Are there ways, we saw some good Duncan minutes in the fourth quarter. Obviously he's been part of this rotation. Saw some good Haywood Highsmith minutes in garbage time. I wonder if we'll see him again. Spo obviously is not afraid to go back to that. The Love move in Game 2 worked, I thought, really well.
Game 3 it wasn't as great. Yeah.
Not as great as Game 3.
Not really because of Kevin. The Nuggets starters are just so much better. Right?
Yeah. So what do you expect to change for Game 4? Do you expect them to kind of lean into that offense, or are they going to keep trying to figure out a way to slow down this Nuggets offense?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think they have to hit more threes, right? They have to find a way to generate more open shots and kind of counter what Denver's doing.
Yes.
With just kind of sticking to, and maybe that means more attacks, right? If Denver's going to try to take away the 3-point line, like maybe that means more attacks getting into the paint. But that's forcing guys like Max and Gabe out of their comfort zone, right? Because they want to shoot threes, they want to shoot mid-range shots. Maybe more Cody Zeller minutes. Cody Zeller would finish with a team best plus minus.
I know.
But no,
I think
again,
he blocked. Did he block Jokic one time? I couldn't tell if he blocked the shot or just very much altered it. But he had one good possession on Jokic.
yeah, I think he did have a block actually. No, he played 6 minutes, but yeah, he was a +4, so they actually won those minutes. They were -20 with Bam in the game, which is a little bit surprising. But it's hard to answer that question, right? Because I don't know what you do. I think you have to just hope you make a bunch of threes because at this point I don't see them stopping Jokic. Murray, I guess, they had some success against him in game 2 with Jimmy on him, but that didn't carry over into game 3, and Murray just is not such a heater right now in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of limit turnovers for the tonight. You have to make more threes. You have to try to limit their offensive rebounds. I know I don't want to go into the rebounding storyline too much because I think it's kind of overblown, but in an ideal world, you'd have more second chance points than Denver, right? Because that makes up for some of
it's a combination, right? Second chance points and points off turnovers.
Yeah. I mean,
you need those garbage points.
Yeah, they're a shots on goal team, right? So you got to get more shots up than.
Yeah, the Corsi's got to be good.
What?
It's a dumb hockey joke.
Oh, yeah, hockey. Yeah,
you're talking shots on goal. It's
they are shots on goal.
Yeah, they are.
So and they did that tonight. They had 12 more shots than Denver. So they accomplished that, I guess. And Kyle Lowry even said that's a positive. But at the end of the day, they just have to hit more shots. They're not going to beat this team shooting 37% from the field and 31% on threes and missing all their shots at the rim. So I don't want to be boring or just kind of state the obvious, but he'd have to make more shots to win. On Friday in game 4.
I just looked it up. Teams to make 5 3-pointers and fewer and win this year 12 times in the regular season. So
12 and what? How many times did it happen?
Oh, I don't know. I just looked up how many wins with teams shooting 5, making 5 or fewer. Yeah, there's a lot of games that happen. The Pelicans won a game making only 3 threes this year.
I feel like the Heat have had to have won a game like that this year.
No Heat.
No, wow.
Denver did it once though, against the Wizards in December. They did it twice actually. So
I'm
they've
surprised.
Got a little recipe for it, I guess.
I'm kind of surprised that Denver has shot so poorly from 3 against the Heat. They're a good 3-point shooting team. I know Michael Porter Jr.'s missed a bunch of shots, and some of the role guys are shooting as well. But I'm trying to see what they're shooting for the series, and I don't remember really a good 3-point shooting night for them. The first 3 games, they've really just been able to win with, except paint points.
They've got some just their size advantage is no. I mean that was the story out of game 1, right? It was just they bullied the Heat in that game, physically. It just not being a bully, but just
right.
There were.
That was their advantage. Yeah,
that was their advantage. They played into it. The Heat countered a little bit, right? Going back to Kevin Love. But yeah, they just have more. They have more options, right? That's how you win ultimately a championship, right? Is you are the team that has more counters ultimately in a 7-game series. Assuming the teams are even, right? Assuming there's not a massive talent disparity, which they're is a little bit in this, but they just have more options. They can go big. They can win a game 3-point shooting. That's the fear, right? Could game 4, where the Heat are basically in a must-win situation, could the Nuggets shoot 41% from 3, and all of a sudden, there's nothing you can do about that? Yeah, that's the problem.
I feel like there's a game like that coming.
Right, that's the thing. There's a game like that coming. You got to hope it's not this one, right? You'd probably rather it be game 5 in Denver.
Right.
So, yeah, they have more counters. That Spo makes up for some of that with him being as good a coach as he is. But Malone is probably the best coach he's gone against in these playoffs. Sure. Also, depending how you feel about Tom Thibodeau. So, they're really good. I mean, there's a reason they ran through the West like they did.
And usually it just comes again, I'm not saying the Nuggets are going to win the series. I mean, that was our pick before the series, but the Heat are still very much in it. But usually
I don't feel worse about the Heat now than I did at the start of the series.
No, I think this is kind of what I thought it would be. Right?
It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be really hard for them to win.
I didn't think it was going to be a sweep for Denver. I still think the Heat will win another game in the series probably, and kind of extend it to 6, or maybe even 7, right? But yeah, usually the best player wins in these scenarios. And Jokic is not, again, Jimmy Butler's been great, but he's obviously, he won't admit it, but he's obviously seems to be limited physically still. He just hasn't been the same since turning his ankle in that next series. Just hasn't. I refuse to believe that's just coincidence, right? I think that has something to do with it. I think also like he just put a lot of minutes too. Like it's hard on his body to kind of carry that load. But right now, Jokic is by far the best player in the series. And really, if he wins the championship, I think there's a strong argument to be made that he's the best player in the NBA. Like,
I don't think there's an argument against it if he wins the championship, right? I mean, it's like, I guess the only case against it, there's probably two cases. One
defensively,
is like,
I guess. But
one is like Steph is still great. That team just kind of stunk around him.
Jokic
and the other one is Giannis. If he hadn't gotten hurt, what happens, right? Like those are the three guys I think who are kind of a cut above. Again, Giannis, there's an asterisk on it because of Jimmy was way better than him in that series, right? Like that's Jimmy. That has to be part of the discussion. But yeah, Jokic is, he goes on the all-time list, right? Like, is he past Dirk Nowitzki on the all-time list of the championship? Like,
I don't know. I honestly, I was talking to somebody.
He's only 28, but
I don't. As far as an offensive player, is he already like a top 10 offensive player?
To me, that I can think of, it's like him and Steph, right? Like, there's no one. Like LeBron at his peak was absurd, obviously.
Dirk was very good.
Michael Jordan, right?
Michael Jordan, yeah.
I'm thinking guys like
Kareem,
in my lifetime.
Will Chamberlain, but just this. There's been nobody like him ever. You think of some of these guys who put up ridiculous numbers recently, right? Like James Harden, Luka Doncic. It's just like those guys had bad. Like it's hard. Like what would a bad Jokic game look like? Like we said, his bad game was a 41 point performance. Yeah. Like, wow, you guys shut him down. Yeah. You guys really had success. You got home to 41 points. Yeah. He's really incredible, and I knew he was awesome, obviously, but just watching him,
his touch around the rim is great because he's got post moves a little bit, but it Bam stays in front of him. Like he gets his hands up, and he just shoots over him, and he just shoots over him, and he taps it in. Like
that's the thing. I think I knew he was a good shooter. I knew he was a good passer. I knew he's a good just jump mid-range shooter. But he's a really good posting player.
Yeah, he is.
His efficiency, at least entering.
And again, he's not just like shaking guys like Kareem or like Hakeem did, but he gets into favorable position. He gets over guys, and he makes his shots. He's super good. Like, I watch him
analysis.
Yeah, like it's been him and like I tweeted it the other day. I think him and Steph are the two most fun guys to watch in like the last 20 years or whatever, basically. Like LeBron too, right?
Take on Steph, so I don't want to get into it now. No, Steph last year won me over, so I'll go.
Yeah, but I don't even mean how good you think they are.
Yeah,
like, sheer entertainment value,
of course.
Like I don't know that I've been kind of down on Adam Silver lately and like messing up by like not putting this team more front and center. Like the ratings have been good. Like I don't care that much about ratings, but the ratings have been good in this series because I think people are like watching Jokic for the first time and being like,
this guy's
like ridiculous.
Yeah. And just really, Jamal
and
Murray.
Jimmy obviously is part of that too. I think he's got a big, cool story around him. But
and just the pick and roll, like Jamal Murray and Jokic, they're a historically great pick and roll combo. They just complement each other so well. They have Bam and Jimmy guarding that pick and roll. It's like what we said before the series. Like they have finally in game one they used Gabe on Jamal Murray, but they quickly made the adjustment of putting Jimmy on Jamal Murray. It gives them more options to defend that. And the Heat are putting their two best guys on their two best guys, and it just hasn't had much of an effect because I don't know how you stop it with them. They can play off each other so well in almost every situation and scenario.
Yeah, and like it feels like Murray like never misses an important shot. Just like any time the Heat would get to 10 or whatever, it was pull up three. Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers it. I think I think Denver. I thought Denver was the better team entering the series, and not to disrespect the Heat. I think the Heat are very, very good, and they've proven that this series. But Denver has just been great in the playoffs, and I still feel that way through 3 games.
Yeah, it was always going to be hard for the Heat to win.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think they knew it going in, right? I'm sure Denver thought the Heat it was going to be a hard series for them too. Like, but yeah, we've seen that. I think from game 2, maybe we should talk really quickly about that before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Just obviously the Heat's win, like we said, they shot like an insane number, and it's a big part of why they win. But were there any other? And again, obviously Denver adjusted off of that. Like you can't just be like, all right, let's try to replicate what we did in game 2 and then make a lot of threes. But like, what do you like from that performance? That I don't know. Anything that stood out to you? Like if we see this Heat team win another game or two or win this series, anything from that game that stood out to you was like a template, a blueprint, a little bit for how to get back into this.
Not to be repetitive, but to make 50% of your threes.
Well, yeah, that'll help.
And and also just they did a really good job of mixing up their defense in that game. Like this zone was pretty. I mean, the numbers wouldn't say so, but there were points in that game where the zone was very, very good. And even the press too. Like they just did a great job of kind of keeping Denver's offense on balance. And I thought the zone wouldn't work as much against Denver, but it did in that game. And you couldn't see that like Denver was having some trouble kind of adjusting on the fly to all the different looks that we're giving them. So I think they will continue to have to do that because, again, I don't think they could stop this offense. I think you can only try to just kind of just like –
I think the press is an interesting ring.
Yeah.
They were talking about it quite a bit on the broadcast today whenever they broke it out. Just like – again, obviously, like they're not trying to get steals on the press.
Yeah.
Right? They're just trying to, like, give you 16 seconds to run your offense rather than 19 seconds. That makes a big difference. Like things just like marginal moves like that. If, like we said,
2-3 less seconds.
We don't think they can stop this offense,
right.
But if they can slow it down just a little bit,
everything you can, yeah. You just try to change it up as much as you can, change the puzzle as much as you can. Try to, even if it slows Jokic by 2 seconds, like to make him think a little bit more. That helps, right? The press, slow them, delay the amount of time it takes them to get the ball up the court. Fewer time, less time to work within the half court. So I think all those things will help. And the Heat will need to continue to try to do that to really kind of just slow this offense enough, to have a chance to win these games.
What if Spo's just been sitting on like a 1-3-1 press all year? And he's got to like break it out.
He's like.
I know, but I mean like the one where you try to trap guys on the corner, like middle school basketball.
Honestly, I'm not surprised by anything Spo does at this point. And I've talked to guys and like players in the team, and they're like, and they've been asked many times during the finals and playoff run of the zone. They're like, we rep it so much that we're tired. And Spo will refuse to talk about the zone. Like he will not say. He'll say it's not about the scheme. It doesn't matter. It's about effort. But they clearly know that that's an advantage they have. They can just pull it out of.
It is funny that no one else is doing it, right? Like,
no, I think teams will start.
But I feel like we thought the same thing after the bubble run because it was a big story during the bubble run to get them to the finals.
They use it as much on the playoffs.
I don't know what
more switching that this because they had Jay and
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first year they started really using it.
I think this year during this run they've used it a lot more.
Yeah,
and leaned on it a lot more because they have a lot of bench lineups that there's multiple.
Well, especially now that Duncan's back in the mix, right? Like.
Yeah, and with Zeller kind of manning the zone, in the center too. Like they play the zone a lot when that bench.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw. I think it was Jim Boeheim tweeted that he like Jimmy Butler came up to work out or something with him over the summer. I'm sure getting some of those zone tips, right?
Yeah. The way he does it though is like so unique, right? Like the way they could just kind of.
I talked to during the bubble run. I remember I talked to Jim Boeheim for a story.
That's right, you did. You did. That was good. We should probably. That'd be another good story, right? Yeah, just kind of like talk of how the Heat have kind of changed the zone over the years. I mean, ideas easily from the Heat because everyone says it like the way they played is so unique and different.
Yeah, I remember he definitely like touched on some of that when I said maybe I'll link that in the story if I can link it up somewhere.
That's a good one. I forgot. I honestly forgot about this. That was a good story you wrote.
One other thing I just want to finish with Jimmy. Two things that stood out about him from tonight. One, he was aggressive, like as aggressive as we've seen him out of the gate, I think, in a long time. Getting to the rim, wasn't finishing that well, but was getting to the rim. To me, that's one of the more encouraging. To me, that's one of the more encouraging signs I think coming out of tonight that, maybe whatever. We see it with Jimmy, right, where sometimes he like gets a second win after like the Boston series last year, right? Like he was awesome early, got dinged up, whatever happened, and then roared back by the end of that series. obviously, if he gets a second wind and starts to look like Milwaukee series Jimmy again, like it totally changes the complexion of the series because the gap between him and Jokic shrinks significantly. On the flip side, 0 steals for him tonight, which I know we talked about the turnovers, but like that's when he's really locked in, right? Is when he gets those free baskets, he jumps the passing lanes better than anyone else. So some good from Jimmy, some bad from Jimmy. Those are kind of my last couple thoughts on tonight.
Yeah, he took 16 shots in the first half, which is the second most he's ever taken in a first half in his career. So that's how aggressive he was, which was different than the first 2 games. I think he only averaged like 16 shots a game in the first 2, and he took 16 in the first half tonight. So different approach. He was asked about it. He was just like, I was getting into the paint, and when I get into the paint,
you're right. That's the thing. I mean, that's to me the better sign is that he was getting to. He missed a couple layups, he missed a couple floaters, but by the end of that Boston series, we were watching like he's not even getting into the paint. Like he's getting into the paint. He's not shooting. Right. That was to me. He was shooting at least when he got in there tonight, and that. I mean, there's a reason they were playing well in the first half, right? Like that opened so much up.
And I think some of that too was Denver's adjustment of like not helping him as much, right? So like it kind of forced him to play that way, which could be a good thing for the Heat, right?
Right. I mean, if he makes how many? What do you say he was at the rim tonight?
It's like 2 of 8 or something.
2 of
like
7,
that.
I think, something like that. Like
2 of 7 at the rim. Yeah.
If he's 5 of 7, it's
I think the Nuggets' strategy is kind of clear after the first 3 games, especially after this one. Like limit the Heat's. I think they know that the way that he can beat them is by shooting threes and making threes.
Yeah.
If the Heat are going to rely on 2s, I think Nuggets feel pretty comfortable that they can win.
Yeah.
Right, with the player, with the personnel they have. And again, we saw it tonight. Like he shot a little better than them from 3, but it just wasn't enough to overcome a 26-point deficit in the paint. Right, so I think Denver will continue to try to do that. They're going to try to like shut off the 3-point shooting from the Heat's role guys, and make the Heat beat them inside, where the Nuggets have an advantage with size and honestly like guys who can make those type of shots with obviously Jokic leading the way.
Yeah, they've got one of the best Noah's Ark offenses we've seen in a long time. 2 by 2 by 2 by 2.
2 by 2. It's killing you slowly with 2.
Yeah, they do. That third quarter, there was no barrage, right? There was no 3-point barrage. It was just Jokic spinning and throwing up floaters and
no, it's true. It's true. And they finished with also a 22-15 edge in free throws, so they drew more fouls. I mean, it was just a really, really impressive performance from Denver. Again, to overcome a 5 of 18 3-point shooting night and only 10 more turnovers in the Heat, and they still won by double digits. Again, there's stuff that he can clean up, but those 2 statistics are kind of discouraging.
Yeah, the recipe for the Heat to win the series, they need at least 1 or 2 more of those monster 3-point shooting nights, and probably one great Jimmy game, right? Like one of those 40-point Jimmy games. Not impossible. Like when you just put it that way, it doesn't sound impossible.
No, again, we both picked I think Nuggets in 6. Would I be surprised if it's in 7? No, because the Heat have shown like during stretches that they can play with this team.
Yeah. They played a great half today.
Yeah. They were right there in the first half. They won game 2, obviously got a strong fourth quarter, but I don't think it's this lopsided series that it was made out to be before the start. These teams are closer than I think many thought.
Yeah,
before
100% agree. All right, let's finish up there. You got to get home. I got to go to bed. It's Panthers practice. Panthers minute. What's your one Panthers take? Not looking good.
Oof, not good. I don't know. I mean, Vegas looks really good. Their goaltender.
Yeah, they look good.
Now they have the hot goaltender and not the Panthers. And I don't know. All I've heard is like the Vegas' 4th line is like so good. So I know that their depth is obviously really kind of overwhelming at times. But look, the Panthers haven't played a home game yet, so maybe
exactly. Series
tomorrow,
starts
all the narrative changes.
Home, right? Yeah. 2 days off. Like I think game 1 was a toss up. Like
Panthers were in that for pretty much until like final few minutes. Yeah,
definitely underdogs now, but I'm not writing them off yet. Although if they lose tomorrow, they're in a lot of trouble. So, all right, let's finish up there. Thanks as always for listening. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. He is at the Kaseya Center all the time.
It's my second home.
Yeah,
that and a plane. Those are my 2 homes.
Yeah. You spent a lot of time on the road. Were you gone for a full week? Was that what the trip wound up being?
8 nights.
8 nights.
Boston.
It's a long time with no Cuban coffee. And I saw as soon as you landed, you went to Versailles.
I found a Cuban restaurant in Denver. I didn't
really?
go last time, but I am gonna go next time I go for dinner.
Okay, there you go.
Apparently, it's very good, and it's a
big
family
city, right? So, you can follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. I'll be out at FLA Live Arena all weekend for playoff hockey. Are you excited about Messi? I guess we should do like 1 second.
How can I not? I mean, I'm not a soccer guy, but that's awesome for the city. And
it's just hilarious that he's got to play at DraftKings Stadium.
At Commercial Boulevard.
Yeah. Right around the corner from the Miami Grill. Yeah.
It's gonna be. I saw someone tweet like the best soccer
stadium.
Yeah,
and it was like Camp Nou and
and
DraftKings Stadium, where Miami Central keeps winning state championships. Like,
no, it's a fun time definitely to be a South Florida sports fan. It feels like the Big Three era can't be replicated, like that excitement, that buzz. But I think overall, like just a sports scene, this might be the golden era. I think at least one team has to win a championship.
Right, someone got to win a championship.
To cement it, but I think it has the potential to be like the golden era.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first time ever we've had the Heat and Panthers go this far simultaneously.
The Dolphins are really good.
The Marlins are like 5 games above 500.
Yeah.
The Dolphins
have a guy
are
that's like
competent.
hitting like Ted Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, the Dolphins are competent. Inter Miami is incompetent, but now has Lionel Messi, so
arguably the best player in the world. And
yeah,
but the Hurricanes are still the Hurricanes. So.
Yeah, basketball. I mean, we like the basketball, right?
Yeah, basketball. That's another one. FAU, men's and women's for UM.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you guys next week.